Okay, I think that's been 5 seconds, right?
Yeah, we are now live. Good job.
Okay. I can count down happy Sunday, and I guess it is Sunday, right?
Yes.
Anymore. So we have Tiffany once again, and we have our friend Nick. Right? We're probably not saying just Nick, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can say Nick Dearman. I'm here. I'm outing myself to everybody because what matters anymore.
Because if you're a longtime reader, Nick has written many amazing blog posts and has humor that most people love, and he can also get under people's So when it comes to trolling non-Delta fanboys or assorted other people.
It's very, very, very kind words.
And it's... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No.
Well, okay, maybe this is a good place to start. So you have historically been our resident Delta fanboy extraordinaire. Sky Miles is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Exaggerating a little bit, but
also
and
not
so
really.
Delta just he drinks the Delta Kool-Aid.
And this is also the exact transition I was going to make.
I think
we're on the same page. That's perfect.
So how are you feeling? What's your status, by the way, now? Because you used to be Diamond.
I'm a Diamond medallion.
You still are.
And actually was really already sort of gaming like how I was going to requalify this year. And so I'd already done a couple trips. So I'm about 25,000 MQMs already for the year. And had a significant number of trips planned in March and April for work that were canceled. And I'm just sort of learning to live in the moment and be present and not get really upset when travel plans get canceled. So it's really weird. So I'm very relieved to know that I'll have status for another full year. Because even if, aside from the fact that I won't be able to qualify based on 2020, I won't be able to enjoy the Diamond status anyway in 2020. So it's really nice to have that extra push. I think they're doing the right thing.
The way they went about it is interesting as well, because so it's not just that they're extending status by 12 months, but all the medallion qualifying miles earned in 2020 will be rolled over to 2021, which makes it on the surface, but it does not address the MQD requirement, right? So medallion qualifying dollars, you also need to earn status unless you get a credit card waiver, and that is not being extended till those aren't being rolled over.
Well, so your MQDs never roll over. But that just means in 2021 you need to have MQDs for the year to qualify for Diamond. So for whatever your tier is. So, which I think is fair. I don't think there's anything unfair about that because you still have a full calendar year to spend those, dollars.
It is fair, but I'm saying it might not be quite as easy as some assume. In other words, it's not that you can do half next year. Next year you might only have to do half MQMs or whatever, but somehow you have to get that MQD requirement.
Right, so it's basically we're just freezing everything for this year, right? But for next year, you would have to do whatever you needed to do next year anyway.
Well, the MQMs roll over from this year. So if you end this year, whatever MQMs you're in this year also go to next year.
They're basically just saying, hey, we just fast forwarded to December 31st. Your MQMs would roll over on December 31st. Everything else would start from scratch. So it's like normal, we just juggled the calendar if you're Delta.
So the way I imagine what's going to happen is the amount of platinums is going to balloon. And then there's that plateau because you can have the credit card waiver to get platinum and you don't need to spend comparatively that much. So there's going to be a ton of platinums qualifying for 2022 status, right? But it's still going to be very difficult to get to that Diamond. The only reason I really made Diamond this year was because I took advantage of those airfares to Bangkok last year.
On China Eastern or which one?
No. This was on KLM and Air France. So we flew via Paris and Amsterdam to Bangkok, and it was like 9,500 MQDs, and it was like $2,000. So very, it was. Air France was, it was a lot of travel to get there, but I think it was worth it, and that was kind of a fun adventure.
How are you doing on complimentary upgrades as a Diamond? Not right now, obviously, but prior to this, how many upgrades were you getting domestically?
I was getting them pretty regularly, actually. Even on the DCA, on the Delta One flights. I would get upgraded more often than not.
Because you're doing a lot more, not obviously not currently, but you were doing a lot more transcontinental travel than you previously had been.
Yes. And my family's back east, and my new job, our headquarters is actually also in DC. So it's kind of nice to be able to travel for work and see my family. But, you know, it just like last year for Christmas, we flew to DC, but I'd already qualified for Diamond, and Delta's airfares were like twice as expensive as everything else. So we just used miles and flew United and a lie flat. And, you know, I didn't really have any loyalty to Delta to the point where I needed to spend more money than I needed to after I'd already made Diamond. So anyway, that's my, what was your last flight that you guys each have taken before the lockdown?
Well, that's fun. Everybody should answer that, actually, and we'll put up things because that's fun. So, Ben, what was your last flight?
My last one was the very glamorous Managua to Miami, 1 hour, 40-minute flight. Like from Managua are pure luxury. So the upgrade cleared. Actually, it was okay. Actually, hold on. Something memorable about that flight, which I felt bad about. So Managua to Miami, like suddenly the cabin just smelled absolutely awful, horrible. And so as it turned out, there was an older gentleman a few rows back who had unfortunately, what's the polite way to say, crapped himself. Is there a nicer way?
I thought you were going to say he died, but so that's
no. But so, and he also unfortunately couldn't really walk. Like he was brought on a wheelchair. Like it was really unfortunate, the whole situation, because like they're trying to carry him forward to go to the bathroom, and of course he needs help in there as well. And so he had to wear like an American blanket for the rest of the flight, which was, I felt really bad for him. But like the cabin, a lot of people didn't realize what was going on. Everybody's like, why does it smell like this? And then, so anyway, so my last flight memory maybe is not the most positive. It was not Emirates first or anything.
What do you call it? It sounds like a shitty flight.
That was low hanging fruit there, Nick.
That was the kind of, I guess, the fun. I'm adding what everybody else did. I'm like, you should see the video productions that's happening over here in my kitchen today. Yeah, my last flight was that gamut of coming back from Morocco. So we flew from Marrakesh to Lisbon, and then we flew from Lisbon to New York, and then had to overnight because of timing, and then New York to Seattle, which was fun because that's like a 7-6, and my upgrade did not clear because everybody else was doing all the same things, but we got the really nice, fake. It's like fake first because there's no one in front of you if you sit in the second row of Comfort Plus situation. So that was nice, and there was good social distancing in the Comfort Plus cabin at least, and then to Spokane, but that flight wasn't as memorable since it was like 20 minutes. So that was good. It was really weird. Like we were talking about just how different things were, in the airports were so crowded. It was crazy because we just announced like the start of the travel restrictions, and people were freaking out about whether or not they'd be able to go home. And Heather and I were talking about, I was traveling with my cousin, that like that will be, unlike many trips that we take, like that will be a series of flights that we like talk about for the rest of our lives, because it's just so different and just so dramatically, such a dramatic departure from what the normal travel experience was, hand sanitizer everywhere and people washing their hands. And so different from, let's see, that was March 13th. It was February 27th when I was coming back from Iceland, or the 25th. I was coming back from Iceland. I was like, no one is washing their hands at all. Like no one knows how to wash their hands. And just the huge difference like 2 weeks later. So
yeah, my last trip was like that last weekend in February, first weekend in March. I went to Salt Lake for Park City, had a bunch of friends there. It was actually gay ski week. And I was thinking about, and just looking back as to, our flight was delayed by 8 hours from LAX on Thursday. And I kept trying to jump onto other flights. And I was in Terminal 3 and then Terminal 2 for a total of 8 hours, running from gate to gate, trying to go up to the Sky Club, trying to negotiate something, and just thinking about the amount of time I was in, like a vector of humanity, like everywhere, packed crowds, people sweating, like nobody taking any sort of precaution, the opposite of social distancing. And then when we got on the plane, we had a mechanical issue with the with the prior plane, which was a 757, but like configured for Delta One. And so they put us on a 777 that had Delta One suites. I think it was a 777. Anyway, we were all just kind of marveling, like, oh, because none of the flights are going to China or South Korea, they're like using all their international aircraft for these domestic legs. Aren't we lucky? Like, isn't that kind of neat? So when we finally did get on this plane for an hour and 20 minutes, I had a Delta One suite, and then on the way back, Salt Lake Airport was packed that Sunday, and like it just didn't feel particularly. There was no social distancing. There was no hand washing. There was nothing of the sort. My friend wore a face mask, and I thought he was ridiculous. And now I look back, and I think there was like a really good chance that a ton of people caught COVID-19 that weekend when we just weren't taking the right precautions.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
How things have changed. We have to wonder if they'll go back to how they were before, or if this is on some level the new normal.
Yeah, I don't know. Are people going to want to go to crowded restaurants and concerts and stuff when we're allowed to? Is that going to be something that appeals to us, or are we going to be repelled by that?
I see like there's going to be a huge surge in outdoor activities. And it's interesting because Spokane is pretty outdoorsy, and we have enough space for people to be outdoorsy. And I feel like a lot of the things that we do here that other people might find excessive are going to have an increase in popularity. Like there's a lot of outdoor picnicking and river floating and snowshoeing, and obviously things you can't really do in LA and Miami, not so much snowshoeing there. But appreciating space and distance while outdoors anyways.
Ben, you don't strike me as a picnic kind of guy.
No, the outdoors, I like to be outdoors, but not like sitting on the ground. I would just like to continuously walk and not stop. So
you could do outdoors like the senior population does in Spokane, which is very bougie. Like there's chairs, there's tables, there's, music, sometimes, an assortment of wine and cocktails. It's very, high-end picnic.
I'll just keep walking. It's like, I like alcohol and I like being outside, but the combination of the two, I like to drink in air conditioning. So that's
very Floridian of you.
What about wait? What about in a pool?
No.
Ben doesn't get in
first
the
of all, pools are absolutely disgusting. People pee in them. They're like.
Wait, so you don't go into pools?
Hell no, they're disgusting.
Even in hotels, like nice hotels, like
I'll sit and look at the pool. I mean, but why? See, I don't understand the concept of people wanting to be in water. Like, I'm not a fish, and like what? So I can why?
You know this, Tiffany.
I have zero.
I've never known that you do not go into pools.
I love looking at the ocean. I love looking at pools. I love sitting by pools. I do not like going into the ocean. I do not like going into pools. They're just disgusting.
Ben has gone swimming with me once, and he was really snotty about it. But I can't really complain because you were also a good sport in that you went swimming. So I recognize that the huge strides that were required to get to that compromise point.
I think it was a W Sentosa Cove in Singapore.
It was, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
but I
be in the water,
which
is complicated because I prefer to swim. That's my preferred thing to do in a hotel, even on a short layover. That's my preferred exercise when traveling. So you don't have to pack.
He sometimes forces me to go in the water, which is smart. He guilts me into it, so that's the only way I'll get in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he's like, I'll divorce you if you don't get the water. And I'm like, okay, fine.
It's a little less
ridiculous. There's nothing better than a great hotel pool. And there's nothing better than drinking alcohol in a hotel pool.
No, because this is even more disgusting. Because when you have people drinking in the pool, then they spill it. It's just come on.
Honey, I'm not talking about
I'm not
talking about Vegas. I'm talking about a nice little lovely island resort in I don't know. I'm talking about a Six Senses or an Amman, bitch. Not
yeah, okay. Well, you show me.
Not the MGM Grand.
I'm sorry. You tell me which Amman has a one of those in the water tiki pool hut things where you drink in the water and you're whatever the hell.
They'll serve you a drink in the pool. You don't have to have a swim up bar to have a drink in a pool.
Say if you have a drink, you cannot go in the pool. That should be an accepted principle of life. Come on, that's an unwritten rule of you do not take. Is it okay to eat in pools then? If you want to be served a pizza in the pool, is that okay?
What No, like first of
That
all,
is as ridiculous of a logical jump as like all
No,
the people who would be like, oh, so, so you're gay. So, are you also a pedophile? Like, that's just, they're not the same at
of
all.
course they are. I'm saying, why would you have
I
a
would
drink?
say
Okay,
this. I would say so. You're at a pool, and it like let's say I'm just thinking of when I was in Cambodia at the Six Senses. There had a really beautiful pool, and and every room had its own pool too. So the communal pool never had more than one other person there, and we'd order a drink and we'd put our drink down on the decking, like the coping right there. And I think we did even order like a bowl of chips, and we just had them. We didn't like
Tiffany,
eat.
there's no logic jump. He was eating the chips in the pool. I told you.
That's not the same as pizza.
Of course it is. Chips are worse. Chips, everything falls off. Are you kidding me? Pizza is a solid piece of something. Chips, you have guac, you have salsa or something. It falls off. That is worse.
And I'm horrified as to where do you, what kind of traveler do you think I am? I'm not like sitting there
Well,
like.
no, but even if you were like, this is actually something that I love about you, Ben. Like, you say you're a germaphobe, but you're paranoid about the germs that actually can't hurt you. Like anything in a pool, not going to hurt you.
No, I'm not worried about it like, oh, I'm going to die from it. I'm just more disgusted by it. Like people are, I think of the water in a pool. But the first thing comes to mind when I see a pool, I'm like, okay, everybody has peed in that. And then on top of that, like people have spilled their drinks. They're sweaty. Who knows when they last showered. I know there's no actual risk to my health. I'm just like, it's disgusting. Why would I want to do that?
But again, I like the image you're conjuring up to me is like a Vegas hotel pool. You're not conjuring up like, like a
on pool. It doesn't matter what it is. Whoever is going in there is probably peeing and is probably.
Yeah, I feel like I'm with Nick. Pools
I
have
don't,
chemicals and standards, and like any hotel pool is cleaner than like any restaurant you're eating at.
Again, I'm not arguing it's whether it's in absolute terms clean or safe or whatever. I'm just saying it's disgusting. So the standards that can't be enforced are the worst parts because you cannot enforce whether people are peeing in there. You can't enforce. I mean, you can try to enforce what people drink, but the nice thing you're not going to tell them, and like you're not going to watch if something spills. So,
okay, we're just gonna have to disagree because I think one of the greatest pleasures and joys in life is a cocktail in a pool. And Tiffany, you've been taking a neutral stance here.
No, I've not been neutral. I love Ben, and this is who he is. There's no winning is the difference. Right? Like it's not a neutral stance. It's just there's no winning. Like he's decided. There's no like facts you can present or emotional things like this.
Oh, I know.
Feels, and it's fine.
To be clear, I fully respect.
You personally know the pleasure and the joy of a pina colada in a pool in a tropical destination. Yes.
Yeah, maybe not pina coladas, but
yes.
See, the thing is, though, I fully respect people doing this in pools because I'm not going in the pool, so I don't actually care. I'm saying why I'm not doing it. So it doesn't at all hurt my feelings if somebody's like, I'm not going to do it because I'm not in the pool, so it doesn't matter. Have nachos and cheeses, whatever, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm not going in the pool, so we're good.
Okay, settled.
Drink and eat all you want. Maybe just eat and drink just in the pool. That way the outside of the pool can be for me. Deal?
I don't know if my eye rolling is really capturable on Skype right now, but
I think the
yeah, but Nick, can you introduce us to Hogan?
Oh yeah, Hoagie. This is one of our dogs, and he just likes to hang with me in the den. This is my home office where I'm basically spending all my waking life right now, and he likes to come and be my little assistant. So he'll kind of type away the notes. He's pretty useless, though. Thinking about laying him off. Just joking, Hoagie. No, Hogan's the best. I have flown with him, which I know is a big touch point for a lot of people, but honestly, I don't care. I don't know. I think there's a lot of pain in the ass parts of flying with a dog. It's like flying with a little kid, and thank God I don't know that joy. But I'm assuming you just always have to look out for something else, and it adds a layer of stress, notwithstanding that it's supposed to relieve the stress as well. But anyway, this is Hogan.
Are you worried at all that regulations are going to be changed now? Because we just saw the DOT where there's a period where the public can comment. Do you think it's going to happen? And if so, will that impact obviously it'll impact your ability to travel with Hogan, but to what extent?
I mean, I it's not the end of the world for me. Basically, when we go home for Christmas, I like to bring a dog because like my family's a lot, so sometimes it's nice to have that like little moment of just like a reminder of what home is. And also, frankly, this is gonna sound terrible, but it cuts down on the cost of boarding and all that other stuff, which especially during the holidays are really expensive. So if I can take one with me, it makes me happier, and it saves money a little bit on that kind of thing. Yeah, I won't be heartbroken. It's fun, but it's also a pain in the ass. It's always nice when you have your dog and your destination and you can kind of enjoy that, but I wouldn't take a dog on vacation with me. I would take a dog like to my parents' house. Having a dog on vacation, I've done like road trips with dogs before and kind of done like the Parker Palm Springs with a dog. And you just always like, it's just always that extra layer of like, okay, now we need to walk the dog. Where are we going to walk the dog? What if the dog barks when we leave the room? That kind of thing. That's just
or
not
if it's
worth.
Winston, it's like, how long after we leave the room will the dog start barking? Because Winston doesn't love hotels.
Have you been to the Parker since it's no longer a Starwood / Marriott, or?
No, I haven't even been to the Parker since, I guess they redid it maybe 4 years ago. Last time I was at the Parker was like October 2015. So 5 years ago. Almost.
Is it still open? Is it still called that?
It's called the Parker Palm Springs, but they just don't, as far as I'm aware, they don't have the Meridian.
Leave it.
I never really had a whole, I mean, how weird that it was that, and then the sister hotel was like that bland as heck hotel in New York.
I've never been there.
Which is now a Hyatt, right?
Yeah, which is now a Hyatt, and it was not nice.
No.
Very weird, because the
Palm
Parker
Springs, like, Palm Springs hotels are very weird to me too, because I stayed at the A's. It's kind of like it's like a part. What are you doing back there, Tiffany?
Freya, well, I needed to get more coffee, and Freya, like, there's a squirrel. So,
well,
life with the wine.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think the prices for hotel rooms in Palm Springs are outrageously overpriced all across the board, and even in the summer now. And I actually feel like any destination where somebody in LA might want to spend the weekend is already like an absurdly overpriced market, because people in LA are, God love them, they have a lot of spending money, or they did before this. I mean, we'll see what happens afterwards, but they had a lot of spending money and a lot of, wanting to make an Instagram story about some hotel in Santa Barbara or Palm Springs or the Amangiri, right? That's the one in Utah.
Yes.
And therefore they're always at capacity. They're always twice as expensive as they should be. And the service and the rooms are never as great as they ought to be for the ask, I feel like.
Well, so, you're paying for the convenience mainly, rather than, obviously stuff is going to be cheaper if it's not as convenient to big markets. Sure. It's like, but I mean, New York, where New Yorkers go, equally screwed.
It's not super convenient to get to Amangiri, I don't think.
No.
It's not bad from St. George, or from, like, you could even fly to Vegas. It's not terrible from LA.
Right.
Like, it's not that much further. I have to get my charger. Sorry. Okay. You guys can keep talking.
But for that same amount of time you're traveling, you could get on a plane and fly to any number of other places that aren't quite as hyped up, that are probably just as nice.
So how are you enjoying the Delta experience out of LAX? Like, obviously not at this very moment, but still, they're building the terminal of the future. But like in the meantime, as you explained, you were going back and forth. Like, have they done a better job integrating operations, or is it still a mess?
No, it's like not the mess that it was. Terminal 3 is a little bit better now. It's absolutely hugely under construction. I'm not sure when the last time you were at Terminal 3 was, but
long time.
They've essentially taken the pier. Well, so you know how all the terminals at LAX are like, there's a pier, and then there's kind of a bobble or whatever at the end of the pier where all the gates are. So they've taken the pier at the ground level and demolished it entirely. So the only way to access is underground. So you have to now, for Terminal 3, go through TSA in the basement and then kind of crawl underneath, like through one of those The really long tunnels that have the 70s like day glow, like fluorescent kind of earth tone, whatever they are. So Terminal 3 is not great. Terminal 2 is great. It's pretty integrated. I think there's really no rhyme or reason anymore to, it used to be that you could reliably say like a really important flight, like a Delta 1 flight is going to fly out of Terminal 2 and all the regional flights will fly out of Terminal 3. But that's actually not the case anymore. I've had a lot of hoppers like San Jose or Salt Lake fly out of Terminal 2. And I've had flights to JFK and Washington, D.C. fly out of Terminal 3. So that's not super, they have a lot of reason to that. Terminal 3 has 2 Sky Clubs now, which is kind of nice.
Terminal 3, so it's the former Virgin America loft thing, and
then right across. So they have 2 Sky Clubs right across from each other. It's essentially an overflow.
So they have that one, and they have the old U.S. Airways one.
That's it. In a way, I actually kind of prefer the Sky Club in Terminal 3 because they have a bartender there, and it's a little bit more convivial. And the big T2 convivial.
I'll have to look that up.
Nick likes to talk to strangers, so he has maybe different lounge goals.
No, I just like
to look this up.
Look, as you know,
fancy.
The bar at Sky Club has some pretty good deals that you can spend on things with your points. And Terminal 2 has a really beautiful Sky Club, and it's huge and it's enormous, but it's a self-serve bar, so you don't get that choice of upgrading up to a nice glass of champagne or Kettle One or something like that.
So in the self-serve ones, they don't have any option even for the buy-up, like the expensive champagne.
No, but they do. They have like Veuve de Vernay, which is like sparkling, like $10 sparkling wine. And my favorite, though, this was really sweet. Like, there was an attendant a couple of years ago when they started offering sparkling wine. And she was like, "Oh, we have champagne. It's a Veuve." I was like, well, like, a Veuve is not... Yeah, I mean, very sweet of her. And I was like, oh, I think I'll have to mix this with orange.
I mean, it's like the flight attendants who are like, we have a champagne. You're like, which one? They're like, I think it's from France. Oh,
yes.
Very, very specific.
I have learned from you that I always, even if it's an international flight where I know there's champagne, I know that if I'm on the ground, it's going to be Cava or some shit like that.
Especially on Delta, they really pour the not good stuff around.
But there's life beyond champagne, my friend.
What else are you drinking on airplanes that you're loving, other than like the hard seltzer, which I love, but it's not tasty. It's 100 calories and it's good. It keeps you going.
A Bloody Mary is always a really good domestic daytime drink.
See, I'm picturing now people drinking Bloody Marys in pools, which is absolutely disgusting. Because you know what that's going to look like when someone spills it because they're having too many Bloody Marys in the pool.
I don't know how this is appearing to everybody, to the audience, but like Ben, you're on my left, and Tiffany, you're on my right. So when I'm glancing off that way, it's like me looking at Tiffany.
How big is your monitor?
Huh?
How big is your monitor?
I have this weird, so I'm in my home office right now for work that I use for work. And so I have an actual monitor and then my laptop screen, and there's a dock. So I had to open up the laptop in order for the camera to come out, but I'm kind of looking at the monitor behind it. So I don't know.
So it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. It's like Bloody Marys or like domestic wine is always going to suck.
Right.
It's always going to be like a really jammy, like Cabernet Sauvignon or like just the oakiest Chardonnay you could picture.
Unless actually if you're on Alaska, because they do a lot of really nice like Columbia Valley wines. They don't do mass-produced California wine.
And Tiffany, I haven't properly thanked you and Nick for giving, like, what an opportune time to gift me with a case of wine, like right before a quarantine lockdown. Like,
you're welcome. Helpful. Obviously was not planned that way. We didn't plan for a quarantine. There would have been probably more rosé. I don't know if there was more rosé.
And then also beer on an airplane sometimes if I just don't want to. Yeah, I might even go with like a Heineken or a Stella on a plane. I'm not ever really, unless it's an international flight. There's not going to be a whole lot of stuff that I'm going to be jazzed to drink. But so usually I just get a Bloody Mary because it dulls the flavor the cheap vodka, and that's my plan.
Fair enough.
So here's a question that people are having. I feel like, Ben, you've addressed this a lot, but it also changes roughly every 12 hours. So disputing charges with credit cards when airline refuses a refund and will only offer future travel. They give the example of Norwegian is only offering rebooking through November. And like, obviously that doesn't work for people who plan spring break trips.
Right. So, I mean, I think as before, kind of the situation is you can try to dispute anything by credit card, but the reality is I think they're going to start clamping down on credit card refunds because, I mean, it's going to cost, so many people are doing it at this point, and the speed at which they can process them just won't be there. So, you know, we've seen some cases of card issuers just refusing to issue any sort of refunds and just saying that, you know, they've offered you an alternative, so deal with it. I mean, so you can try, but I wouldn't count on it necessarily working. But I would expect policies to become more generous over time. So just give it time because, you know, we see all the time, you know, Delta just extended the length of vouchers. Now the DOT issued a ruling in the US. And so we'll see how airlines adapt. So I think, like everything, if you can wait a little bit, do, because things should get better. And don't accept the voucher, because once you accept it, you're agreeing to it. So don't do that. That's my take.
No, I think that that's actually just the general best advice, I mean, with most things in life, is to just calm down, like hold your horses on it a little bit. Like I suspect that anything that was booked for spring break, eventually someone's going to have to give you the opportunity to book for spring break next year. Like the hotels and the resorts, they're going to want your occupancy during what is typically like their money-making time. And so seeing something that, okay, originally we'd said that this would be good through the date of ticketing. Now it'll be good, 30 days past, or 13 months past the original date of travel. Like it seems like that's probably where we're going to evolve to get to with most. There's going to be some carriers who don't play ball, obviously, like Allegiant. I don't have high hopes for their customer service policies.
Or Frontier still telling people that they need to rebook within 90 days, which is outrageous. But I mean, that's Frontier as well with their $6 fares. But I think the other big thing is, because some airlines are good about issuing like e-credits, one of the other biggest problems I think that's not really being considered is what functionality do most airlines actually have to process these vouchers in the future? So you have all these vouchers outstanding. Many airlines, you can only book by phone. Like, how the hell is anybody in the next year or two going to get through to an airline agent on phone when every single person booking needs to call in to rebook stuff? Like 20-hour hold times? It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, they're just going to have to implement some technology to do it. And like most of these airlines, they can take multiple forms of payment. They can take gift cards. They can take, so just that'll have to be what they do, is be able to treat the vouchers differently and streamline it. I mean, it's one of those like investments that you wouldn't have made, but probably.
You're more optimistic than I am. When you look at that, the GDS still looks like something from the like 80s. I'm a little bit skeptical as to airlines' ability to, or desire even. I mean, are they going to even try to screw consumers in that way by like, okay, well, these vouchers are going to be really hard to redeem. Good luck.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe. And just hope for the breakage.
And speaking of that, I have a question for you guys, which is that before times, I had purchased a premium ticket on Air France for travel in August. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen. I mean, who knows? I'm not going to do anything about it yet. The fare I booked through the international airline program on Amex, and it turns out that it's actually refundable for $400. Like that when I bought it, I knew that it was a refundable fare for $400. Like essentially, I would get refunded back everything but $400. So, and then I also used some points to pay, like some Amex points to pay down the fare a little bit more. I know I can refund it, but do you think that I can get that $400? Like, do you think that I'll still owe the $400 to Amex at this point? Probably yes. So I think I'm going to wait on that one. But I assume if I refund it, that I get the points that I spent on it back to my account. Correct?
I don't think so. I think that you get the dollar amount of the points back when you cancel something where you did pay with points. I don't think you get the points back.
Oh, okay. I mean, happy to get it.
Something like that's even better.
Yeah, they do it as like a statement credit. So it's like you convert them to cash. Okay, so two things there. One, for anybody who has any future travel, you should just not cancel it until the day of at this point. Like there's no
Really?
benefit to you to be proactive at all. Like 0%. You know, I am supposed to be in Havana today, and I was going to need to cancel the trip because my brother-in-law is deployed. And the whole, like, I have to cancel because of military orders was going to be a huge hassle. And instead, we're canceling because you stopped operating the flight, much easier process. Would recommend that. So can we also talk, Nick, are you, not to put you on the spot here, but that's what we do. You're paying down with points, and I assume that you're doing that through like the Amex Business Platinum, where you get a really good return and rebate. No,
Oh, Nick, why? See, you need to get
I
off of
wanted
this.
Okay, so this is, I
At
feel
1 cent
like,
per point.
yeah, and
I
Danielle
wanted
has the
to
same
come up
question.
here. So
Not
the
trying to
two
call Nick
up
out
here
per se,
here.
but absolutely, it's the worst value imaginable.
Justify your actions. Go ahead.
It was a lot from your. It was not. It was cheap for first class airfare. That was still a little eye popping, but I was like, okay, this is my one vacation this year, and like everything else, like it all evens out in the end. But and I got it down further with IAP. But then I was like, if I can just cut that down even further with points, like I'm not going to, because truthfully, I've sat on those Amex points for 4 years and haven't touched them. I'm probably not going to use them for. I realize the way I travel now is I buy premium fares and I fly SkyTeam. And so there's going to be some rare moments where I need to, or where I'm going to end up redeeming for like Singapore Airlines or something like that. Just that's kind of how I've adjusted into how personally like we travel.
Right.
I would way rather spend money on a routing and like a schedule that works for me versus kind of waiting to see what award availability looks like. This is just me. Like I would have a person several years
Right.
ago.
And so this is actually something I'm going to cut you off because you are not adding to your credibility. I would say those are all perfectly valid things and situations. And when we talk about like having the credit cards that make sense for you, like that's fine. And if you want to be booking like premium fares and you're going to be doing that, that's great. You just get different cards so that you can still benefit from the savings and the opportunities instead of using like your Amex Platinum where you're getting like 1 point per dollar and then redeeming for 0.6 cents on the dollar. Is bad math.
Noted.
So tune in next week when we go through Nick's wallet and be like, no, like you're paying $1,000 in annual fees that get you absolutely nothing. Stop.
I'm sure. I know it. Like I know that I'm an imperfect vessel for this wonderful privilege I have of being a brunch guest. But I know it. I know it. I'm imperfect. I think there's a lot of people out there who know that their credit card strategy is probably suboptimal as well, but it just works for them, or it's whatever they're used to. Like I'm too old for this shit. So, well, can I say that on? Yes, I can say.
Yeah, that's fine. No, and I think that's a perfect example. Like it's not meant to be shaming at all, but a very small change. Like you could change from you're using the personal Amex Platinum, you could change to the business Platinum, and then you'd be getting that 35% point rebate whenever you did use points for the international airline program. Like that's a huge. That's more than 35% better because the personal Platinum gives you 0.6 cents. Rather than
what is your everyday credit card for spending?
So I actually am probably going to change that now, but right now it is my Delta Reserve card. Especially now they added the tranches so that every 30,000. So yeah, that's most likely going to be my everyday card. I don't need it anymore this year because I think everything's on pause. So I then go to my Chase Sapphire Reserve. And then James and I have a shared account. So for household expenses and stuff, I use my Rose Gold Amex. We call it Rosie. So it's fun because we're like, oh, should we put it on Rosie? And Rosie is the name of our shared credit card. And so we use Rosie for like utilities and just.
Okay, hold on, Nick. Wait.
Yeah.
This is my favorite game. Sorry, Nick. You wanted to be on the happy hour.
Wait. Also, Rosie's been getting a lot of workout last month because we've just been buying so much Amazon and everything in bulk. Now, what you're gonna read me now, right?
Yeah, of course
that's
I
what
am.
happens now.
Phil,
Yep.
here we go. Okay, so here's my first question. Do you have a card that works for everyday spending, or why are you earning 1 point per dollar on Rosie for
To be
utilities?
clear, when Nick asked me what cards they should get for their new household, I was like, you should get the Everyday Preferred or the Freedom Unlimited, and you should just go all in on one ecosystem. I feel like that was the correct answer.
It's like, look at this thing. It's so pretty. It's like,
you are literally the target customer for this. They're like, oh, it's a pretty card. Like, you know.
Look at that. It's really nice.
Right.
And it's.
I'm sure the cashier is very impressed. But you know, why are you not earning more than 1 point per dollar on your everyday spending?
Because because I'm realizing that I rarely dip into my points. I just do. Other than my Delta points, which I do a lot I often will buy like a premium or a domestic first class airfare, get 1.5 times the MQMs, and then pay it down a little bit with points.
I'm going to argue that the problem here is actually it's not your credit card specifically. It is that you are a slave to Delta because you're on the status hamster wheel, and so this is when you think of really the value you're getting from points because your loyalty to SkyTeam. Everything sort of revolves around requalifying for status. And so there are other good redemptions out there, but maybe you're missing out on those because everything is focused around Delta. So anyway, No,
look, that's just my strategy. And where I think it comes in real handy is that when there are irregular operations, like there were that day I flew to Utah, the minute shit goes down, I call the medallion hotline.
Wait a second, weren't you still at the airport for 8 hours though?
Right.
Yeah, but there
running
was very
from terminal to terminal with
How
the
many hours would you be at the airport if it weren't for your diamond set?
So here's what happened. So they're about to cancel the flight. Every other flight to Salt Lake is booked that day, booked up, even on other airlines. So as we were leaving, I immediately called the diamond desk. And they found one seat for me I booked a first class airfare, but they found me an economy seat on like the 4 o'clock flight or whatever it was. And I was like, okay, yeah, just they got me on that. So they did that, and nobody else on the entire plane was able to get on that flight. So I felt okay, like I'll at least get to Salt Lake at a reasonable time. And then an hour later, they announced that the flight you're originally on was now scheduled to take off in an hour, and they'd found a new aircraft. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to take off later in an economy seat. So I got put back on the flight I was originally on. And when they did that, they released that seat on the 4 o'clock. And so I was no longer protected. And all they could do is put me number one on the standby.
You're not really selling the benefits of status here.
Right. These are actually, this would have been Delta Platinum, and all of this would have happened for me or better as a Platinum.
Or better?
Right. Well, because I know what to ask for, which is not related to status at all, right? It's just I know how to ask for the right thing.
Well, I also got 25,000 miles out of it, and I got a full refund on both flights. So
that's pretty good.
Which is great, and none of it has anything to do with using a card that only earns you 1 times points at Amazon.
Fair point. Here's me sitting in a pool, ordering a cocktail, using my Delta.
You wanted to come to brunch.
So where is your Air France La Premiere ticket to? If you in August, is it La Premiere?
Yeah, it's on the 777 as well, and to Barcelona. And you're always going to find the cheapest first class airfares are always going to be LAX to Barcelona versus any other place.
Okay, now speaking of Air France La Premiere,
and this is not that janky Algeria fare that came up last week, and Ben and I were like 0% chance I'll honor it, and turns out 0% chance I'll honor it, and people are mad.
This is the price that it is. It just is this price. And, it was my gift to myself. It was my bone. It was whatever it was. It was certainly the most, it was just.
Well, to be clear, we're not judging your spending at all. 0% judgment on the spending, only on the vehicle of the spending.
So my question along those lines, speaking of Air France La Premiere, is what do you think the odds are when this all recovers? Will it go back to the good old days, or will we see big product cuts? Will this be like after 9/11 or whatever? Will we see premium products at this point devalued?
That's a good question. I don't think anything's going to shake out right away. Like, I think to the extent that happens, that'll be rolled out over 2 or 3 years. I think we are going to be in a depression, not just sort of an emotional one, but a true economic one. I think it's very scary, and I think the real estate market's going to crater. Personally, I think travel. Well, yeah, I think the travel industry had a really good long ride, and there's going to be some adjustments. I don't know. I think Air France has a brand, and I think knowing my former employer had been purchased by the French, so I have a window into French corporate culture. And I don't think French corporate culture, there's just a stubbornness and a sort of sense of this is how it's done. Where of all the airlines to cut first class, I don't know that Air France will actually do it. I think they're going to have a certain.
Where would the pilot's wife sit when she flies if they cut La Premiere? So.
That is already something they have started to restrict. So they have actually made progress there, surprisingly.
Wait, what happens with?
You will notice that. So first of all, on Air France, the pilots are no longer. The pilot's wife is no longer like getting a first class seat.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
Consistently, but it used to be a thing. Okay, so to transition a little bit, two things. Like Mike brings up, Nick, an easy thing that you could do to improve your points maximization without, making life harder, is for a lot of the consumables ordered from Amazon, you could buy a $500 gift card using Rosie from a grocery store, and then use that credit to buy from Amazon. That way you're supporting your local infrastructure as well, and you're getting more points on the spend. You're getting 4 times points basically on Amazon.
So when I feel comfortable going into a grocery store again, that is a wonderful strategy. Right now, the idea of going into a grocery store terrifies me. So
but talk a little bit about like what you're doing, because I think it sounds like some people, like Los Angelinos, are pretty creative and are doing some interesting things to sort of support like the food, the supply chain and everything like that, in addition to just like getting takeout from restaurants.
So this is something if you try to do Instacart, Amazon Fresh, Whole Foods, those orders are really difficult to get a delivery window. And with Instacart, the delivery windows are a week to 2 weeks, even 3 weeks out. And the problem is you can fill up your cart, and then who knows what the stock will be in a couple of weeks. Right now in LA, it's impossible to find flour and rice. Just generally at the supermarket, those are not available. I'm sure paper products as well. So what a lot of restaurants have done is they have turned into markets. So there's probably a dozen that I can think of off the top of my head where you can go on their website or on Postmates, and you can buy like a dozen eggs and a bag of flour and a bag of rice. And these aren't like commercially sold. It's not like you're buying like Eggland's best eggs. You're buying
some portion of the like 90 dozen that they would normally get.
Right. So when you're buying rice, you're getting like a mason jar full of rice, or a bag or a Ziploc bag full of rice, and you're getting a mason jar full of flour. You're getting from their own supplies, and you're buying it. And what I love about it is it's supporting local restaurants, and it's using Postmates to have something delivered in an hour. You know immediately what their stock is, and you're not necessarily waiting for a Ralph's or a Whole Foods order to possibly not be fulfilled. And I'd rather support the local restaurants than I would support Kroger or Amazon, who don't frankly need my support right now.
Well, and it's super helpful just in general. There was an article in the Miami Herald this morning, and I'm sure in a lot of other papers, about we're approaching a situation where we're going to have crops rotting in the fields, not because there's no one to pick them, but because no one's buying them, because the bulk of produce purchasing in America goes to restaurants, not to consumers. So if the restaurants aren't ordering all the cucumbers that they would typically order, why would they bother picking them? So it's one of those ripple effects. So doing things like that to keep those commercial supply chains running, since we all can't order takeout 4 times a day.
And James,
somebody, Scott is asking, I don't know if Scott's in LA.
Oh, sorry.
How did you find out about this, Nick? Like, are you ordering from the restaurants? Like, you're doing it via Postmates and probably just like local buzz, or?
It's local buzz. I think the Infatuation has a running list, and Eater has a running list of restaurants that are operating as markets. My like off the top, this is a reader in LA who says this. Like off the
I don't
top
know
of my
what that
head,
is. But Eater's a good recommendation because Eater is nationwide and like most big cities have their own branch of Eater.
right,
So
right. It's just worth even just most restaurants on Postmates after their prepared foods, it would just be a list of pantry staples, or a lot of what I'm doing too is buying like protein. So I'm buying like steaks that we can cook, or chicken that we can cook, versus that's a lot more appealing to me than going into the freezer and thawing something that I panic bought a month ago. That's a Foster Farms whatever that's been sitting in the freezer forever.
right. Our local, we have like a very old steakhouse here who's doing the same thing. Like you can buy steaks and whatever that you can go and pick up. And Russ just pointed out a good point. He finds out a lot from restaurants via like their direct Facebook or Instagram or websites, more up to date and comprehensive. So if there's a restaurant that you like, maybe check out their Facebook page. And if they're, or even like share this idea and be like, hey, I heard that a lot of restaurants in LA are doing this. Have you guys looked at that? That might be a good option.
It's Instagram. That's exactly right. A lot of the restaurants have Instagram pages. I don't know that they're doing it on Facebook as much, but on Instagram, they'll usually upload their menu and like what they have available every day.
And it's just going to probably depend on your market. Like Spokane is a heavy Facebook market for restaurants. Craig is saying, and this, we were talking about this with toilet paper. Hey, I would think that at-home purchasing would take up some of the slack. I mean, the amount of people eating will not change, just where the food is consumed. And that's true, but the logistics are totally different for the consumer versus the commercial.
Yeah. There was an interesting article Tiffany and I were talking about earlier about why there's a toilet paper shortage, and it has very little to do with actual hoarding and a lot to do with the fact that the toilet paper industry has two supply chains. There's the commercial supply chain that serves offices, airports, stadiums, restaurants, and then there's the consumer supply chain. And they make two different products. The commercial supplies are those giant ass rolls of like a half ply, that kind of thing. And there's only a certain amount of consumer products that are made. And they're made with the assumption that people are going to do a certain amount of their business, so to speak, out of home. That they're going to be doing that at their office, or at a restaurant, or on a plane even, or at the airport, or wherever they are. But no, everybody's doing it at home. And so the usage essentially is 40% higher than was ever planned for. So there's a demand that outstrips the supply. And meanwhile, on the commercial side, there's all this excess toilet paper that is not being ordered or used, but you can't just sell it to consumers. The fact, and it would be more expensive and more inefficient to have a factory convert itself into making consumer products, because when this is all over, they're going to have to spend all that money to make commercial products again.
Right, so you can't retool your factory. And then on the food front, a lot of it is, who do you even call? If you're a grocery store in, let's say, Spokane, because we are out of everything, and you're like, oh, what? There are cucumbers in Miami in the fields that nobody in Central Florida is picking. How do I buy them? Like, we're not even set up for that. So I did see that Feeding America and some of the other food pantries are looking at how they can buy directly from growers and like tap into those commercial supply chains where they have like milk that's getting dumped out.
Yeah.
So it's just going to take a minute
to that point, yesterday, James, we sacrificed a little bit of our beautiful lawn to put these big Victory Garden planters, and we are now growing a bunch of vegetables. And we're probably not going to see the fruits of our labor, as it were, for a little bit. But I think there's this idea in investing in self-sustaining kind of methods, and just fun. We are very blessed to have a backyard that gets sunshine, because we'll grow what we can grow so that we don't have to stress about not eating fresh lettuce. We can grow it ourselves.
And lettuce is the easiest thing to grow. We grow lettuce by accident. So, because the previous owners had lettuce and rhubarb.
So
as long as you want a rhubarb salad. Yeah.
You just have to brush off the snow.
Yeah, it snowed again this morning.
Do you think you'll maintain this after this is all done, or you just started it now? And
I think that this might be James's way of the idea was this is temporary, but it's like these are, we'll see. Maybe it is it has definitely reduced the amount of grass that we have. So I like the idea of having big, beautiful, expansive grass, a little runway of grass. So we will see. But I wonder if should I show it?
It is the much more environmentally responsible option to, have kale and cabbages and things like that rather than grass, like grasses.
Right.
I'm with James.
Well, you're probably right on that. Can you still see me? I just undocked, so.
Yeah, we can see. It's jumping. You're frozen. Didn't go well.
Wait, can you see me? These are the planners.
You teleported.
Wait, hold on. We didn't actually. Okay.
Wait, I teleported?
Yeah, wait.
Right, you were frozen and now you're in the yard.
Let's see it again. Okay, never mind. There's a.
Oh, I just walked back in. I'll send a photo and we can upload it to the blog later. Or something like that.
That is a legit garden.
Yeah, that's me. Okay.
That is a legit garden. Sorry, I think you're.
Okay, can you guys see me?
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a time delay here. I should have just kept it docked, but yeah. I know. Where did Tiffany go?
She's still there.
I'm still here.
She's still there. Yeah. I think. I can see. Yeah. I think it's probably just the. Okay. Anyway, sorry to screw that all up, but that's what we're doing our part. Growing vegetables.
Are there any questions from viewers that we can get to before we?
It didn't answer. Somebody did ask, Pedro, did you see the Delta email from a few minutes ago? Yeah, Ben wrote a blog post about that this morning, and we talked about that a little bit at the start of the live stream. So if you're joining late, you can always watch the beginning later. It will be at this link and on the YouTube channel. We're starting to have pajama questions. Yeah, you have not changed your pajamas top in the 3 weeks we've been doing these chats.
That is correct. Japan Airlines first class representing. Yes.
Do you wash the pajamas?
I do wash them, yes, that is. And I in fairness, I only wear them for this because it's otherwise too warm to wear pajamas in Miami. So I just wear, whatever, Lululemon stuff or whatever. But yeah.
So, I think this was fun. If there's any final questions, we can answer them. Otherwise, we will see you guys on Thursday. Since you're already here watching the live stream, hit the bell on the YouTube channel and you'll get a reminder when we go live. And we'll post reminders on social media and on the blog as well.
Does everybody have a mask?
Look at you.
Well, then to make it chic, you kind of have to do like that. So now I'm protected and fashionable.
So I've been watching a lot of Drugs Inc., and that's exactly how they dress as well in doing their testimonials. So just throwing that out there.
Drugs Inc. Okay, we'll have to add that to the list.
Oh, it's amazing. Amazing.
Everything is pretty trash.
So 2 fast questions. Ben, do you think that Starlux will survive this, given that they were just starting up? I think they're maybe in a better place than it seems.
I hope so. I mean, they are paying now for planes, but I really hope so. I mean, as a Starlux Insider, top tier elite member through 2023, my status is on the line, and that's no. But I hope they make it. I have no clue how much money, because it's the EVA Air former chairman and the son of a very rich person. Like, I don't know how much of his cash he has to put into this, but
right. But they are losing less money per day than other carriers. Like they have less to ground.
They are, for sure.
Silver linings.
Yeah, exactly. And then Danielle was asking, should you get the Chase Freedom Card now during the shutdown or wait? I don't know what difference it makes. It's actually, people have been really paranoid about, like, oh my gosh, the entire world is frozen. We should never talk about credit cards. I don't know. Like, if you're still spending, and most of us are still spending, like if you're still spending and making money, why would you keep earning points?
be financially responsible. Don't, overextend yourself to use a credit card. But other than that, there's no reason to stop unless there's something you're particularly concerned about for whatever reason. But I would be comfortable if I have a good credit score and I can pay off my credit card. Like, I still have expenses no matter what. So I might as well keep getting the best credit cards. And I know I'll travel again one day, hopefully. So when that day comes, one last question before we finish. Nick, what are you watching on TV?
What am I watching on TV?
Yeah.
The Plot Against America, Westworld, and then we're watching Veep from season 1 all over again because it's so comforting and just nice. So a lot of like comfort TV. So we are watching Tiger King, which is insane. And we're just watching a lot of movies and just trying to not have, to break up the routine a little bit. I had never seen Dirty Dancing before, so James made me watch that last week.
Did you watch the Real Housewives of New York premiere?
No.
Are you not into Real Housewives
that was the old Nick. Ever since Carol left, what good? If Carol Radziwill's not in it, I'm not interested.
How were you? I don't know how you're a Carol fan. Yes, she once got in a Twitter spat with me. It wasn't actually the other way around. So, yeah, that was.
Well, so yeah, I actually have started watching old Real Housewives of New York episodes on Hulu from like the Kelly Ben Simone seasons, and those are enjoyable. I just want like comfort food, like stuff that I know. Like, I don't need a new housewife that I have to learn her quirks. Like, give me the old Bravo.
Well said. Well, thank you for joining us today. I hope your vegetables grow to what they should.
Thank you. See you guys soon. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Hopefully, we'll see you somewhere soon.
One quick last question. What is the over-under on when you think travel will, like when you think normalcy will return to travel?
Tiffany?
I mean, what is normal? It's different now. There's no more normal. It'll be something different. I don't know when that will be necessarily.
When can you get on a plane to London and stay at a hotel and dine out?
When we have testing, massive, widespread testing. However,
I'll speculate July, but we'll see.
What'd you say?
I said I'll speculate July because why the hell?
July.
Some
okay.
charts are like,
Okay. So all right. That's all.
We don't know what's actually going to happen, but like I'm dreaming of July. I'm saying in terms of managing my expectations, I'm not expecting anything before July. I'm not necessarily expecting anything good in July, but I have mentally prepared myself for at least till July.
Okay.
So and that's my thing. It's like a mental preparedness. So rather than picking like a date that then I can be sad about, it's like, okay, what is the indicator that we will see that will then make it start to like open back up again? And it's like when we have really widespread testing, then we'll know, and then people can make informed decisions, and like that's what opens it up for me.
That's a very good point.
What is your guess, Nick, or what is your feeling since we're...
I mean, I hope July, but I wouldn't be shocked if it were September. I mean, I really, really hope that I can get the fuck out of here at some point in the summer, but there's actually there's a little outfit, Next Health, which does like cryotherapy and a bunch of other like fancy people, boutique medicine for people in WeHo and West LA. They have started rolling out.
Is it medicine or is it medicine?
No. I mean, but they've started rolling out. They do blood draw. They actually have a partnership with a lab, and they're doing a pilot project with the FDA. So for $250, I could go into their clinic, get my blood drawn, and a finger prick, and find out if I have antibodies. So I can find out if I've had COVID-19 in the past. And I had like an unexplained little cough for 2 weeks that was from my lungs and felt really weird, and just was kind of one of those things where it's like, I wonder if that was how it expressed itself. But so they're already starting, and the idea is the pilot project is they're going to take the finger prick and the blood draw, and if they can prove that the efficacy of the finger prick is the same as the blood draw, then they're going to then that'll make in-home testing kits a lot easier. And, then you can go and prick your finger, send it in, do whatever, and find out if you've had the antibodies. And I'm certainly, that's one test where I think everybody would want it to come up positive, because you want to find out that, oh my God, it coursed through my system and I didn't even know. And then you can go out in the world with a little less anxiety. So, sorry.
If you're still potentially contagious. So.
Well, I mean, you would wait those 2 weeks, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't wait to cough on people again, like in the old days.
So, on that note, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. My husband is looking at me like crazy, like I'm crazy because I think he just realized that I've been doing.
I saw Nick in the reflection.
The reflection of the oven.
Was he doing the dishes? What was he?
No, he went to the store, so he's doing like a full. They can't see you, but he's waving.
Okay.
Well, yeah, they could see you when you were over here in the reflection of the stove, like a full decontamination. We have a decontamination station for like dirty things, things that have been sanitized. Yeah.
Okay.
All of that.
On that
Nice afternoon or morning, or I guess depends on the time zone, or night for some people.
Enjoy your weekends, and we will see everybody on Thursday.